You are listening to the daily homily for Magdala in the Holy Land.
When it was evening, the disciples of Jesus went down to the sea, embarked in a boat, and went across the sea to Capernaum. It had already grown dark, and Jesus had not yet come to them. The sea was stirred up because a strong wind was blowing. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the sea and coming near the boat, and they began to be afraid. But he said to them, "It is I. Do not be afraid." They wanted to take him into the boat, but the boat immediately arrived at the shore to which they were heading. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Many times in John's Gospel there are words spoken that have huge resonance from the past and into the future and at that moment. And so one of these words is, "It is I," or "I am." And this goes straight back to Exodus 3:14. It's an amazing statement to find in John's Gospel, and it's frequently in John's Gospel. And it is a statement really of the divinity of Christ. And that's a confession of the Christian community in the divinity of Christ in John's Gospel that's absolutely clear. It's an amazing word that the Jewish faithful people would not speak, and out of respect for God. And he was claiming that identity by using this word in this way. That's the claim of the Gospel of John. That's very strong. And when we hear that word, there's obviously the historical moment when it's first revealed to Moses at the burning bush. But let's look at it from another angle. There are 2 ways that word is translated from Exodus, and one of the ways is, "I am who I am." And the other one is, "I am with you." That's the way it's understood in the context of the meaning of it. And both of them work incredibly powerfully, because obviously the "I am" part is the interior metaphysics, the solidity of the being. And I am with you, I am accompanying you, is God's mercy. We just prayed, "Let your mercy be on us as we place our trust in you." There's like a great closeness of trusting in God and receiving God's mercy in our lives, God's goodness, God's love, God's gift. And that's so true of the reality of Jesus, as we then later on through the centuries processed how we explain the person of Jesus, how we understand it, how we comprehend it rationally with the light of the faith, how our human brain can figure out, who is this guy? I am with you. And in a certain sense, let's say there were no incarnation. It's just the incarnation makes it so tangible. But let's say there was no incarnation. And we just go back to Exodus. The statement that God makes to Moses is, "I am, and I am with you." The difference with Jesus is that it's incarnate. It's really here. He is with us. Yesterday we talked a little bit about the connection here of availing of this chapter 6 of John's Gospel as an Easter reading, following the reading of John's Gospel from chapter 3, because we ran out very quickly of Gospels of the Resurrection. And so for the last few days we had the Nicodemus readings, the conversation with Nicodemus in John chapter 3, and now we have John chapter 6. And it's so appropriate because this chapter is not just about feeding 5,000 and then about the storm on the sea and then about Jesus teaching in Capernaum about the Eucharist. It's all one Eucharistic compact. So we have the miracle of the loaves, and we have Jesus' total command and presence in the storm. And when we talk about the Eucharist, we talk about the real presence of Christ among us. And this is very necessary because there are storms on the sea. In fact, we see a storm on the sea, maybe a mild one, in the Acts of the Apostles reading. Right now, actually, the wind is so strong, the water is stirred up. Right now, this moment, outside here, I can see the lake here through this window. It's stirred up because it's very heavy wind after the hot day. And the weather's getting over the 30s right now here in the Sea of Galilee. And this coming in a few days is going to be 36 degrees, just so you have an idea. So, and then all that hot air goes up, and then the cold air comes in from the Mediterranean. And that's why we have this wind, and it stirs up the lake. That's the logic of it. But there's a storm happening inside the community in Jerusalem. And just a couple of days ago, we were reading the community in Jerusalem, the first community after Pentecost is one, and before Pentecost, right there at that time, it's one mind and one heart. And now they're complaining. You're not taking care of me. I have this problem. It's a community in trial, a community in upset, a community that has tensions, that has disagreements. And out of this problem, out of this storm in the sea, there's a new presence of God's creativity in the community, and we have the institution of the order of deacon. The word deacon in Greek means, it comes from diakonein, which is to serve. And a deacon is a servant. And actually that's a dimension of all Christian life, of every Christian, but there it's an institutionalized service position in the church. But that's what deacons do. They serve. Their role is to serve, to support, to help. And the first case of this help was charity. And actually that's been the role of deacons throughout the centuries, and especially in our time, many deacons are very dedicated to the charity in the church, the service of the poor, all of the different outreaches of this nature. So also we see the church is spreading in the numbers, it's growing very much, and it's growing in a variety of people. And we have this convert to Judaism who is one of the deacons. Now, he was a pagan, and he first of all became a convert to Judaism, and then he obviously became a Christian, and now he's a deacon. And a large group of priests is becoming obedient to the faith, and that's going to cause more problems later, because there are going to be tensions in over understanding if they should be circumcised and not circumcised. This whole dynamic is going to have to be sorted out. And in all these storms on the sea, God is present. He's not far away. And in the real presence of Jesus incarnate, the Word incarnate, the presence becomes so strong, so tangible, so real. Jesus can look in our eyes, he can speak to us, he can lay on hands, he can eat with us. And so that's the incarnation. And that's so beautiful. We need this. We need the physical, we need the tangible, the touchable, the reachable. And then we have the Eucharist that we will celebrate now. And we have truly Jesus present in the Eucharist.
Thank you for joining us today. If you want to learn more about Magdala, follow us on YouTube and on Facebook.